Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what should be next in the featherweight division. A lot happened at UFC 300, and to be totally honest with you guys, the featherweight division is in a bit of a mess. So in this video, I'm going to be making matchups at 145 pounds and what fight should be next in the featherweight division, because right now obviously Max Holloway just knocked out Justin Gaethje, put one of the best performances in his career. Diego Lopez knocked out Sadiq Youssef in the first round. Aljamain Sterling put a very impressive performance over Calvin Kattar. So there's a lot to discuss in this video, so please make sure to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, if you enjoy my videos. So let's start off with the big one, right? What should be next for Ilia Topuria? Because I think we're all assuming that Volkanovski is going to get the rematch, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I think I'm going to speak for the majority of the fan base, for the majority of the MMA community. I don't see people that excited for a Volkanovski rematch. I know that Volkanovski has earned the rematch based on merit, based on everything he's done at 145 pounds. But if we're being honest with ourselves, we're not that excited about that matchup. Volkanovski is coming off 2 knockout losses. We really don't want to see Volkanovski fight again this year. In my opinion, I don't want to see him fight until maybe December or January 2025. So with that being said, especially now that Max Holloway just knocked out Justin Gaethje, I think everyone in the world wants to see Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria next. I think that's the fight that should happen next. And I think Volkanovski should play it smart, man, because Volkanovski has leverage, right? Because whenever Volkanovski actually decides to return, he's going to be granted a title shot. So I feel like Volkanovski should take a step back, wait to see what happens in the featherweight division, and then wait for your moment. Let Ilia Topuria fight Max Holloway. Let him defend the title. You recover. Work on your confidence. Work on letting your body recover, letting your brain recover, and then come back. Because when Volkanovski decides to come back, he's going to be granted a title shot. I don't think any of us are going to be complaining about that. Volkanovski was a long reigning champion at 145 pounds. So I think that's what should happen next. But if Volkanovski really wants to take a fight in the meantime, I still think that he should let Ilia Topuria fight Max Holloway. But maybe Volkanovski should take a fight against Aljamain Sterling, because that's actually a huge fight, right? 2 former champions, a fight that almost happened, especially if Aljamain Sterling would have beat Sean O'Malley. A lot of people considered Aljamain Sterling the GOAT at 135 pounds. And right now, Aljamain Sterling just put a very impressive performance over Calvin Kattar. And I don't really believe that Aljamain Sterling needs to go through the rankings to get a title shot. I really do feel like Aljamain Sterling is 1 win away from fighting for the title. The UFC is probably going to do him dirty. But, Volkanovski should call out Aljamain Sterling, because if you're able to beat someone like Aljamain Sterling and have that name on your resume, it would be absolutely incredible. And it's also a fight that almost happened. It's a fight that's not very, dangerous stylistically for Volkanovski, coming off 2 knockout losses. So why not make Aljamain Sterling versus Alexander Volkanovski? I know that might be a little bit too ambitious. I don't really think Volkanovski is going to accept a fight that is not for the title. But, I think Volkanovski should just kind of wait and see what happens in the featherweight division. Let Max Holloway have his moment and fight Ilia Topuria. You wait to see, and then you come back early in next year or at the end of this year to fight the winner of that fight. I think that would be better for Volkanovski. I think the fans would actually be more excited to see Volkanovski return, because right now when you put a poll up of would you rather see Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, or would you rather see Volkanovski versus Topuria too, most people are picking Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. And I completely understand why, man. I mean, Max Holloway just put an amazing performance against Justin Gaethje at 155 pounds. A lot of people want to see what he's able to do against Ilia Topuria. I know that he has to move down to 145 pounds. Maybe that affects his performance, but we still really want to see that fight, and I really do believe that's the fight that should happen next. Now, the next fight that should happen at 145 pounds is Moser EV versus Aljamain Sterling. Look, I just said that if Volkanovski really wants a fight in the meantime, then maybe he should fight Aljamain Sterling. But, I don't think Volkanovski is going to take that approach. I think he's just going to wait to see when he could fight for the title again. Maybe he's going to want that rematch against Topuria, or maybe he waits to see what happens between Topuria and Holloway, and then he fights the winner of that. But I think Moser EV versus Aljamain Sterling should be a #1 contender fight. And I think that's the fight that should happen next. Like I mentioned, Aljamain Sterling, he was a champion at 135 pounds. The fact that he needs to be fighting guys in the rankings to get a title shot, to me, is a bit ridiculous. He already proved against Calvin Kattar that he's a real problem at 145 pounds. So why not make Moser EV versus Aljamain Sterling? Like, Moser EV should also, be one more fight away from fighting for the title. He has an undefeated win streak. I know his performances have kind of been, a little bit lackluster. He's been going to decision, but he's still a problem, and he's still a guy on a win streak. So I think Moser EV versus Aljamain Sterling is the fight to make next, a #1 contender fight. I really do believe that's what should happen next. Now, the next fight is going to be Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega. Look, I know Brian Ortega maybe wants to fight for the title, but let's be honest, man. Brian Ortega hadn't fought in 3 years. Before that, he fought Yair Rodriguez, was injured, he got submitted in the first round, pulled his shoulder, was off for 2-3 years, came back and beat Yair Rodriguez. But what has he really done in the featherweight division? I mean, he got destroyed by Alexander Volkanovski. I know he beat Korean Zombie. But in my opinion, I think Brian Ortega needs a couple more wins to really fight for the title. We've already seen him fight Max Holloway. We've already seen him fight Alexander Volkanovski. So why not make a very exciting matchup in Diego Lopez, who has all the hype in the world, who just looked absolutely phenomenal against Sodiq Yusuff, against Brian Ortega. I think really that's the fight to make next. I know that maybe I'm really pushing Diego Lopez at the top of the featherweight division, but I really do believe that's what should happen next. And I don't want to see, guys like Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez just be the next Poirier and Gaethje, guys that are only fighting each other and then getting a title shot. I really don't want to see that at 145 pounds. So I really want to see Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega for UFC Sphere, maybe International Fight Week. I think that would be an amazing matchup. I think that would be a great fight for Diego Lopez. It would be a very interesting fight on the feet. On the ground, the fight would also be pretty interesting. Two jiu-jitsu guys. Diego Lopez has a lot of power. I really do want to see that fight. And I think that's the fight to make next for Diego Lopez. Now, the next fight would be Arnold Allen versus Yair Rodriguez for UFC Manchester. I think that's the fight that we really want to see. Arnold Allen is coming off that loss to Moser EV. Yair Rodriguez just had an embarrassing loss to Brian Ortega. I think these guys really need to hash it out and fight. I think it would be a banger of a matchup. Arnold Allen, Yair Rodriguez. It's going to be a striking fest. I think that's the fight that should happen next for both guys. Now, the next fight should be Giga Chikadze versus Josh Emmett. It was a fight that was supposed to happen at UFC 296, but Giga Chikadze had to pull out due to an injury or a sickness. I don't remember what the exact reason was for his pullout, but let's rebook that fight. Let's make Josh Emmett versus Giga Chikadze, because I don't really want to see Josh Emmett, be one fight away from a title shot. We saw him lose to Yair Rodriguez. He lost to Ilia Topuria. I want to see Josh Emmett versus Giga Chikadze, a fight that was supposed to happen at UFC 296. Now, the next fight should be Calvin Kattar versus the winner of Edson Barboza or Lerone Murphy. I think that's the fight that should happen next. Calvin Kattar just had a very lackluster performance against Aljamain Sterling, where he wasn't really able to do anything to Aljamain Sterling. So I really do believe that's the fight that should happen next. Now, the next fight should be Bryce Mitchell versus Sodiq Yusuff. Bryce Mitchell is going to have to return at some point. I know right now he's recovering from that terrible knockout against Josh Emmett, but I want to see Bryce Mitchell versus Sodiq Yusuff. And I really do believe, guys, that these are the fights that must happen next in the featherweight division. Like I said, I think most people want to see Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. I think Volkanovski needs to realize that he's in a position of leverage, right? If I were Volkanovski, I would take my time, wait to see what happens in the featherweight division. He should take a page out of Israel Adesanya. Look, Israel Adesanya, lost against Sean Strickland. He took a step back. He took a break. He saw Sean Strickland fight Dricus du Plessis and stuff like that. And then now he's returning to get his title shot. Even though I think Volkanovski has a better case to get a rematch than Israel Adesanya does, I think Volkanovski should take a page out of that book in terms of, making sure that you're recovered. You have all the leverage. Volkanovski is a big name. And I think the longer that Volkanovski waits to fight Topuria or maybe Max Holloway, if Max Holloway beats Topuria, the more people are going to be excited for that matchup. Because let's be honest, right now people are not that excited to see Volkanovski fight Topuria. I think people really want to see Max Holloway versus Topuria, which is completely understandable. I mean, Max Holloway just put an incredible performance over Justin Gaethje. We want to see how he does against Ilia Topuria. I think the storyline would also be pretty interesting of Max Holloway avenging Volkanovski. And, maybe they could make Volkanovski versus Max Holloway 4. It would be incredible. Or maybe if Ilia Topuria beats Max Holloway, then Volkanovski returning to fight Topuria. I think the fight would be a little bit more exciting in my opinion, because right now I don't think fans are that excited for for Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. So that's really what should happen next in the featherweight division. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.